One Piece chapter 970. Now, I think this is going to be a very controversial chapter just because of the events and the execution of certain things or certain elements in this chapter that we had, especially pertaining to Kaido versus Oden, because that was the big focus of this chapter. And I think a lot of people were disappointed with Kaido versus Oden, myself included, just because I think things went a bit too fast. It was too fast paced, and there were some things that I feel should have been expanded upon more, just because this chapter was supposed to be huge, just because of the individuals involved, Kaido and the history behind him, and then you have Oden, one of the stronger characters that we've seen in the entire series. And for their scuffle to be only a few pages long was a bit disappointing to say, and I think the execution of how everything went down wasn't exactly the best, but I do think some people may be overreacting a bit. But let's start from the beginning. Now, at the beginning of this chapter, we get to see Oden and Kaido, and here they meet for the first time. Now, to Oden's surprise, Kaido actually knew about him coming to his whereabouts because he had spies on Oden's side of things who was relaying information. Again, the traitor plotline is being brought up again, but we're still not entirely sure who this person is. Now, Oda is making it seem like it was Shinobu at first, because even Oden himself stated that he didn't recognize Shinobu as one of his own, but then when you take a second look at it, he may have acted like he didn't know her so that they would release her, as shown in the later parts of this chapter. And there's obviously something going on with Shinobu here. Her actions have been a bit off and a bit unusual since they all got captured, but she's probably the reason why the others were able to escape afterwards, since all of the scabbards got captured. But again, Oda is making it a bit too obvious here if it is Shinobu, but again, we'll see how things pan out from here on out regarding Shinobu and the traitor plotline. Now, what's very interesting here about Kaido is that he has his Devil Fruit ability at this point in time, which was 20 years ago. And again, this is something Oda loves doing with Zone Devil Fruit users, whereas they usually used full transformation during the initial encounter. Again, it does have some perks here and there, but overall this is the weakest form, and you would think Kaido would be smart enough to go into a different form, given that he's going up against someone of Oden's caliber, someone that has a high prestige in the One Piece world and reputation, you know, being someone who was a top dog of Whitebeard and Roger's crew. I think it's a no-brainer that Kaido should have taken this a bit more seriously. But again, Kaido's hybrid form is clearly being saved for his battle against Luffy and the Alliance, so this is something that's more driven by plot, if anything. Now, they never mentioned what made Oden dance for 5 years, but we know it was predicated on some form of agreement between Kaido and Oden, and this is going to be hard for Oda to justify, just because Oden dancing for 5 years is quite huge. So whatever this agreement was, it has to be a mind-boggling reveal and something out of this world, something that no one can think of. You know, given Oden's personality and how he was built up to be this incredible person, it was very hard to make sense of it, because 5 years of Oden not doing anything, I feel like the end result of that was kind of disappointing, but I still want some sort of justification for the way Oden acted. And again, it has to be something groundbreaking. Kaido versus Oden was probably the thing everyone was most excited for, you know, given that two top tiers were going to fight, and a lot of exposition that we got previously about Kaido getting the scar, Enma's role and all of this, but all of that was kind of skipped over, just because Kaido versus Oden lasted about 2 pages, so the impact of the fight wasn't really there for me, just because it seems like the pacing was extremely fast and every form of lead-up exposition wasn't shown or was completely forgotten about. I feel like this is one of the chapters that should have gone viral on Twitter and stuff like that, just because of the build-up we had previously, because we knew that this was probably going to be one of the bigger chapters of the flashback, given the context of the individuals involved, right? But overall, the content of the chapter does make sense. It was just more so the execution of it that ruined it for a lot of people. Now, a lot of people also had problems with how Kaido was portrayed in this chapter, because he used a distraction to win his battle against Oden, even though people felt like Kaido was built up to be this person who didn't use tricks to fight, you know, bet on Kaido one-on-one, stuff like that, right? Now, my stance on Kaido doesn't really change in terms of both his character and strength, just because there is so many variables that can be used to justify this, The biggest one being that this is 20 years ago and Kaido is probably not the same person that he used to be, so this doesn't really change anything for me. Also, something that a lot of people were talking about is the importance of Enma, because from what it looks like, the Ame no Habakiri was able to do damage on Kaido as well. So the question now becomes, does Enma really matter, or is this more so the skill of the user rather than it being the sword capable of doing the damage? So the Enma thing, I think that was just a tool for Zoro to get stronger, more so than him having a dealing blow on Kaido, given that both swords were capable of doing the same damage, right? So I don't know if Enma is obviously special, but it seems like it's more so the skill of the user. So the Ame no Habakiri maybe has its own special ability as well that hasn't been explained, so we'll see how that plays out. We need more lore on these swords anyway. We then head towards the ending of this chapter with all the scabbards being captured, and here we are obviously heading towards the ending of this flashback. I'd say we have about 2 or 3 chapters left, which will probably leeway to the scabbards escaping, maybe thanks to Shinobu, and that will eventually tie up to Momo and the remaining scabbards going into the future. I do think that we are going to get some big revelations at the end of this flashback regarding Oden, but we'll see how that plays out. But again, that's pretty much it for this video. What do you guys think about this chapter? Because I know this chapter is going to have a lot of mixed reactions all around the community. I do feel like this chapter could have been better if Oda extended it and gave more exposition to certain elements, but overall I thought the content of the chapter made sense. So comment down below what you guys think. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more One Piece content. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you folks later. Peace.